Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining in today. This is the second session of In a Cocoon with, and we're very excited to have Iram Sultan with us today. Just a few announcements. Please ensure that your video and your mics are off during the entire session. That said, if you have any questions for our expert today, for Iram today, please feel free to leave them in the chat box. You can also make quick introductions about yourself in the chat. We'd love to get to know you as well. And yes, we'll be starting very shortly. Thanks, everyone, and speak to you in a bit. Sabiha, you can play the video. Uh, Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining in and welcome to the second session of In a Cocoon with Iram Sultan. Before we actually begin, I would like to invite Smriti to just say a few words and introduce what we're doing today. Go ahead, Smriti.
Hi, everybody. Hi, I am Smriti Chaudhary. I'm the owner and marketing director for Cocoon Fine Drugs. And we're really happy to take this initiative on as a learning platform. It's the first time that Cocoon is doing the series of design talks, and we're truly excited about this. Cocoon truly stands for design, and we always lay emphasis on quality. Every carpet out here has a different story to tell, and we're very excited to say that our comfort lies in design. So I would hand over Sneha and Mrinalini to now take over the session and get Iram on board, please.
Thanks so much, Smriti. Yes, everyone, welcome. We're finally live and we're live streaming on Facebook and YouTube as well. Welcome to In a Cocoon with. This is a very special series where we are inviting noted experts to join us and divulge their unique processes and approaches towards thoughtful design. Initiated by Cocoon Fine Drugs, this series hopes to deep dive into themes relevant to our creative thinking and practice. Cocoon takes pride in innovating and providing platforms for such stalls, as well as emerging tales, where we share their journeys and experiences with the larger community. Our first session, which was a few weeks ago, was with Simone Aurora, where she talked about creating and curating a collection. In case you missed that one, you can access it on Facebook. We're also going to be sharing a link to the session, to that session. So if you'd like to catch it, anytime, you can catch up on the recording. The co-curators, Mrinalini, Ghadiok, and I have been working together to curate the series, which intrigues us for a lot of reasons. We both come with different backgrounds, with different passions, but what brings us together is the way we approach these topics from various sides. And of course, before we begin, a little bit about Mrinalini and me. Mrinalini, who's going to be hosting the session today, is an architect by training, but having practiced architecture and lighting design, she taught at university, researched historical narratives. Having been the founding editor of Mondo Arc India and Stir, her curiosities now lie in questioning normative mechanisms in the creative community, usually through written and curatorial practices. Very happy to be doing this with Mrinalini. Hey, say hi to everyone, Mrinalini.
Hello, very excited about today.
Excited as well, Mrinalini. Thank you. And a little bit about me. I'm a trained creative writer. I'm an educator and curator of storytelling experiences. I have previously worked with brands like Jaipur Rugs, Godrej Properties, El Decor, Exchange for Media. My focus currently is on brand and marketing communication, but I thoroughly enjoy working with design, luxury, retail, real estate, and social impact brands. So without any further delay, I'm going to pass the mic on to Mrinalini so that she can start the series. Go ahead, Mrinalini.
Thank you so much, Sneha. Like Sneha mentioned, we both are very excited to bring this very special evening for all of you today. We're doing this on behalf of Cocoon Fine Rugs, and we've got a very special speaker. The topic for the evening is In a Cocoon with Iram Sultan, conversations about comfort. It's an interesting topic to choose, an interesting person to choose to talk about it. I'm sure Iram will. She's giving me looks already. But the reason why we're doing this is because we know that architecture is often considered as a bare shell, which is meant to contain artifacts and people alike, right? And the design of interiors is mostly credited with experiences and emotions derived in the place. So comfort usually tops the list when we talk about the quality of often used spaces. Therefore, we question, what does this term comfort really mean? And what does it entail? How does design define comfort? How do designers provide comfort? How is space rendered comfortable? And what makes an experience uncomfortable? So as designers, we are required to define it, provide it, or perhaps even challenge it. So for this session of In a Cocoon with, we are thrilled to have with us none other than Iram Sultan to dwell in conversation about comfort. Quick introduction, which probably is not needed, but you know, Iram is shaking her head. But most of you will know Iram for her beautiful interiors and a portfolio that spans across diverse building typologies. She is driven by and most passionately dedicated to creating homes and spaces for her clients that are obsessively detailed, bespoke, intimate, rich with art and history, and speak about the people who inhabit them. I have known Iram personally for years, and while she is known to be a voracious reader, having a keen ear for music and great taste in everything aesthetic, what I can vouch for is that she does not shy away from questioning the norm, poking the silent, and challenging what may seem comfortable. And that is why she is the perfect candidate for our session today. And that is why we are very, very excited and happy to have her with us tonight. A very warm welcome, Iram. Do not kill me.
Thank you very, very much, Mrinalini. Thank you, Sneha. Thank you, Cocoon, for thinking of me. Mrinalini's invitation to me was the siren song. It was almost like step into my parlor, said the spider to the fly. So we both are establishing very clearly at the start of this conversation, who's the spider and who's the fly. It's definitely not me. I'm the innocent one.
Oh, no.
No. But thank you so much. This is the comfort between two old friends. This is also comfort. This is, I think, a very important part of comfort, that you can have a conversation which is rich and which is real more than anything else. Thank you for everything you said, Mrinalini. Part of it was a little frightening. You made me sound a little scary, but it's all true, unfortunately, so I can't fault you on that. How would you want to do this? Would you want us to look at some visuals and then talk about comfort and engage in our usual banter?
Of course, absolutely.
Okay,
I think you've got some great images and project works to show. Why don't we start with that, and then we can keep chatting as we go along.
Okay, done. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. In case somebody doesn't know, and no one is really interested in this, but I'm obsessed. Like Mrinalini said, I'm a voracious reader, and I think Renan Martin is a book as important as any book on theology, but nonetheless. The truth is that comfort is both a verb and a noun. It's something that's a quality, it's a feeling. But to get to that quality and feeling, you need to have actions, and which is where design comes in, because it's an action that gets you to that point. It's not new. I mean, the ancients probably hacked it way better than we could. They built these pyramids, which we still haven't really cracked the code of. We don't know how they built them. And what they put inside when pharaohs died, I think, is possibly the most elevated is not the correct word, morbidly elevated sense of comfort, because they buried their slaves, they buried food, oils, unguents, everything but the pharaohs on their journey to the next life. But as you can see, comfort was never compromised. You died, but you were comfortable. Even in death, you had to be comfortable. So we'll talk about comfort in multiple ways. Something that Mrinalini and I have been chatting about was, who defines comfort for us? And does it vary from client to client, across typologies? So we're a small bespoke studio. We pride ourselves on the fact that we're a bespoke design studio that tries to create something which is unique and individualistic. Each project is almost a journey of discovery. We walk with our clients, we get to know them, because every person is individualistic, varied, and has their own interesting stories. So we are your storyteller when we work with you. Our client is also our first collaborator, the heart of it all, the one who sets the brief and the one who dreams with us. I don't think we've ever said that, we dream alone. Design, as anyone who works in design knows, is a highly collaborative process and so rewarding for that. Your client is your first collaborator for us. I mean, that's just the way we've always worked. And this project was a dream project. In terms of typology, it's an office. This is a client whose home we had worked on earlier, and we were building this office for them. It's an office which is at a level where directors and managing directors will sit. It's for a pharmaceutical company, but the reason it's really special to me is, again, that sense of comfort that the client and I had. We were completing each other's sentences. We were absolutely on the same page in the sense of what we wanted. I'll start running you through some images, and then Mrinalini, at any point you want me to stop and not, if you have a thought or a question, please just tell me. Sure. This is, okay, so this is these beautiful long corridors that were part of this building, this beautiful building designed by Morphogenesis, where we were doing the interiors on this particular area. And we wanted to bring in the sense of comfort in terms of ownership. So how do you do that? How do you bring in comfort through a sense of ownership? If you look at the flooring, it is not a regular pattern. It's part of their logo that we took, created a bespoke flooring pattern, and created that entirely throughout the entire corridor. So when a third person, because we also have a boardroom here, when a third person steps in who's not here every day, they have a visual engagement and they have a recall value of that particular logo that's running through, but not stuck on walls, not, as signages. It's created and it's used differently. The actual key is the usage. There was comfort in that. Then there was comfort in technical aspects, like the kind of lighting that we worked on. We were the lighting designers, and that's something that we will explore actually across various typologies. The importance of getting your details, your technical details correct, because how you perceive space is very, very important. So I want to run you through these images to help you understand what this particular project is all about. Mrinalini, if you have any, like I said. So this is the passage that continues, goes towards the offices. The other, like a little trick, I don't know if you've noticed that, is the use of the shape of the arch. So what are the two most common products that any pharmaceutical company makes? It's either a pill or a capsule. And if you look at that door, it's a little capsule. This form is something that we really enjoyed playing with throughout this project. The comfort factor comes in with also the kind of faith that the client and I had together. So when we first built the project, we had created this long wall which was left empty because we wanted to be very specific and create an installation for this. On the right, you see the installation. It's created by Clove and harks back to The Alchemist. So the origins of pharmacy, The Alchemist, you can see the little bottles and the whole chemical combustions that are happening across this image. Comfort played a role again in choice of furniture. And comfort is also very relevant to how you experience a space physically. So every piece of furniture, depth was considered, seating comfort was considered. And it's sort of difficult to talk about it in a short span, but every height has to be absolutely ergonomically correct, which is what was created here. But adding to that in terms of comfort was the fact that every room had its own engagement with their own choices. And when you engage with the client and you are looking at their choices, you bring in their comfort. So you can see these are two different meeting rooms, two offices that have completely different choices. And then there was the threshold between comfort and discomfort, or is it really discomfort? So there was this space that we created for them. This is a meeting room which is for the head of the health division. Please note that there are no chairs. It's a standing table. And that was not what would have been the obvious form or the obvious definition of comfort. But I think in this context, the comfort level definitely came in from there. This is their pre-function area outside their boardroom. It had a different function. It needed to cater to a larger audience. It needed to talk to many more people. And it was all about an impact value. So comfort then changed hands and went into a larger group of people. How would they experience the space? I also think that when you look at spaces like offices versus homes or a public space, there's definitely a greater sense of comfort to be achieved across a wider range of people. It's not the same as designing a residence. Offices post-pandemic have also changed the notion of comfort. I'm sure that you have all noticed that there is a greater engagement with an office feeling like a home and bringing a person back to a sense of familiarity and comfort. And that comes from making the office a little less sterile. Lighting designs have changed, seating has changed. How you interact with people in an office, because the human comfort of interactions, especially post-pandemic when nobody was meeting anybody, has also changed. And I think design is extremely important in how you evolve that sense of comfort. So interestingly, this office had a little room that we created for family, because if you're working late hours, and this is where I segue back into the point about how offices are now adopting a slightly residential approach. Let's say you're working very late hours. The office allows for your family to come and visit. There's a room for them to be. There's a dining area where they can be, where you can engage and have these conversations, what keeps you going. So this was the first project I thought I would discuss.
So, before we jump into the next, I just wanted to bring in, and I think there are a lot of really interesting points that you've touched upon already, right? And I wanted to dwell a little bit upon this idea of comfort not just being physical, but also psychological. This idea of, especially when you're designing interior spaces, right? Like you said, that you're looking at ergonomics. So you're looking at furniture, you're looking at visual comforts, you're looking at things like lighting. You're looking at just, comfort in terms of textures and tactility. What are the materials that you're touching? Are you going to be walking on a hard floor, or, because it's an office, you're mostly going to be wearing shoes or footwear, but even then, even with that in mind, right? Like, do you have a carpet beneath your feet that makes your walk softer, or are you walking on marble, or are you walking on timber? All of these things start to affect the way you feel and the way you function in a space, right? So perhaps you could dwell on that a little bit.
So design is meant to encompass the five senses. I don't think you leave any of them out. In homes, we even talk about fragrance.
Yeah.
When planting gardens outside, we talk about fragrance. But it's interesting that you're talking about this. I love carpets. I am a big fan of having a carpet underfoot. I live in Delhi, and you know that our city has extreme climates.
Yeah.
And you can have baking heat under your feet if it's a hard surface, or you can have freezing cold, neither of which are comfortable. So even if you have a timber floor, which is also something I love for the warmth it induces, the comfort actually comes from the second layer. And good design is always layered. Comfort is never about a singular layer. It's always about multiple layers. Comfort, if you look at the notion of comfort, you may feel that it's the same across various typologies and various spaces, but the approach to it and the way that changes is what defines it.
Completely.
So in an office, it's very important that when you're sitting on a chair, you use a material that allows your back to breathe, right? Especially if you live in India in a tropical hot climate where you live, you have to have that. If you look at the desk that you see in this image, you'll notice that there's a leather pad so that when your hand touches something, the tactility that you were talking about, there is a sense of comfort. It's not hard.
Yeah.
So that's very important, like you said. At the same time, you have to have a balance. I think design is also about creating that balance between various materials. If everything in a space was soft, it may be slush or mush. But I think that is what lends itself that sense of comfort. The warmth of the veneer here, coupled with the nubby sort of texture that you see on the sofa, the play of that against the brushed nap velvet on the chairs and that custom rug on the floor, it's all contribute. It's never singular. Comfort is a complex emotion, right? I mean, comfort is about so much. It's about belonging. It's about feeling safe and secure. And that's why, like I said, offices have become an extension of our homes, starting from the fact that we all worked from home for long periods during the pandemic. And it got us accustomed to also functioning in a particular way that made you feel you're most comfortable in your own space. So how do you recreate that space in an office setting?
I think it's interesting you say that because, and I was going to come to this later, none of us can deny that we're still in the pandemic and we are kind of working with this condition. And also this whole idea of, we talk about being comfortable at home and we're talking about making our office space and workspace comfortable. But we're also, a lot of us are struggling with the idea of too much comfort, which leads to lack of efficiency, right? So there's this idea, like, where do you draw the line? You need to draw the line. Like, if I can't be falling asleep at my keyboard every day or every afternoon, right? If I'm going to be so comfortable. So like every typology, and that's why we were talking about this earlier, that every typology requires a certain level of anything for that matter, right? If you're talking about color, if you're talking about texture, if you're talking about material, if you're talking about comfort. So even, and also the way that you mentioned earlier, this idea of psychological comfort, right? And the idea of vulnerability, the idea of being in an environment where you feel safe and you feel secure, versus where you feel that you're constantly being watched, or there's, you've got like eyes on you. All of that kind of adds to the idea of being comfortable.
I'm going to add something to this because every point that you're talking about makes so much sense. But we were working on another office project. And what was, again, very interesting was that people had not engaged with each other in an office surrounding. So discovering how to engage with another person and achieve that level of comfort is also today a function of design. How do you design those breakaway spaces that allow you to be comfortable interacting with another person? How do you design an office space where you have a partition that allows you to feel physically comfortable because your health is not in danger, yet allows you to engage and have eye contact so you understand that there's a person across?
And you don't feel isolated.
Yes, yes, because I think isolation and depression were unfortunately a very important aspect of the pandemic lockdown that today we're still working with.
Completely, yeah.
PTSD syndrome has gone up in the last 2 years because of the pandemic lockdown and because of our lack of engagement. Design's role is to address all these and to provide that comfort and sense of security. And like I said, comfort is complex, right? It's security, it's a sense of belonging, it's a sense of wanting to go back to that space. And offices are a big part of that in design that we see in even our current projects, which I'm not sharing, but these conversations are constant. I think comfort is the biggest word today.
Absolutely.
We're back to looking at comfort. How do you maintain comfort for people in terms of maintaining the correct temperature, but also making sure that your filters function correctly? Today, your MEP service, your air conditioning, how do you do that? Do you have sensor activated taps so people are not really touching them in large public areas like office buildings or even hospitality for that matter? How do you make a person feel comfortable by giving them key cards that allow them to walk through without, again, touching multiple surfaces?
Contactless transition.
Yes. And design is an ever-evolving field. I mean, for me, it's every day is a new learning because there's somebody who comes to you with something totally different that you haven't thought of, or a client will put you in that space where you haven't been. And that's where you need to, somebody like me has to step out of my learned comfort zone and say, okay, I did not know this. I need to learn this, or I need to do something differently.
Yeah. And again, this idea of finding comfort as a designer, right? Because a lot of our audience today is from the design field and from the industry.
Right.
And it'll be interesting to talk about the role of the designer in providing a sense of comfort in a project. And I like what you said earlier in this project, and perhaps we can, show some other works as well, because I know you have a lovely set of images coming up. But this concept of working with the client and being comfortable with the person that you're working or people that you're working with in terms of a client designer relationship. And also, like you said, right, design is a very collaborative process. And the consultants or the team, forget consultants, but the team that you're working with, and how all of that again adds to the idea of what is comfort, what is comfortable as a process, and how that translates into the project as well.
So I'm going to talk about this, sharing this new project, this other project, the home that we designed for somebody.
Very relevant because the home is a personal space, right?
Yes, deeply, deeply personal. And it was interesting because when we first met, so my first instinct, which is not comfortable for me in all truth, I mean, if the previous client was a dream and continues to be a dream because we have a relationship built on complete faith, and there's comfort in similarity, right? We all seek that. But I think one of the best aspects of my job is that you meet people who teach you how to be uncomfortable in your comfortable space. So we met this couple, and they came to us. They were lovely, and the husband and the wife had very different views. Plus, the wife said something to me that just stuck. She said, I want to talk about my home, and I want to base it on these wonderful memories that I have. Each time that I travel, I think I love certain aspects of where I've been, and I want that feeling to come into my home. So I said, you mean you want to feel like you're on a holiday each time that you enter your home? And she said, yes. It was not something that I had thought of. Honestly, I had thought of the word safety or security, actually feeling safe and secure in your space. I had never thought of the fact that you could feel like you were on a holiday in your home.
It's interesting, right? Because you
Yeah.
return from holiday and you come back home. You leave home, you go on a holiday, and you come back. So, which technically should be a contradiction in itself.
Exactly. And it wasn't for her. And it got me thinking, okay,
That's
so what do I
fascinating.
need to do? And it was little things that I asked her. I said, what is it like if you had to think of your favorite memory? And she said, I go to London and then I go to these little tea shops and I sit there, and I'm mostly there in the summer. And I sit there and I just feel this great sense of happiness when I'm sitting there. They're little tea shops. They're not of any design consequence. The standard response for people like you and I is to say, oh my God, okay, which museum did she go to? What was that iconic building that she saw? Was it a Norman Foster building that she fell in love with? She didn't fall in love with any of that. Okay, that's just us. She went to a tea shop and said, I felt really happy sitting in that tea shop. I sipped my tea. She's a fantastic cook. She said, I ate a slice of cake that I wanted to come home and bake. And then I just really enjoyed being in that light. So what I ended up doing was remembering my own journeys and my own holidays, thinking, okay, what would she have seen? And then they said, the husband came in, and it was really interesting because his sense of comfort was, I'm a generous host, which he is. I love entertaining, but I want something which is a little moody and a little funky, and I want that to be my large entertainment area in my basement.
Okay.
So I had one person who loved, these light-filled tea rooms in London, and then I had somebody who wanted same house, same space, something moody. And I think that's really comfort, right? That's as personal as it gets. So here is this basement space, which had a lovely courtyard, which he opened up and created this indoor-outdoor. So the light would go in, and he would have his moody spaces when he wanted in the evening. This was what he was looking for, intimate, cozy, a little dramatic, a little oomphy, and when you call your friends over and you pop a bottle of bubbly or a bottle of wine, and this is where you're sitting and drinking it. And she loved these murals that we hand painted outside because she's also got green. She's got a green thumb, and it also brought a lot of light in. I also like a little context, right? Like any designer, you want a little context. You don't want to prop London in the middle of Delhi. I mean, it's not going to work, right? So what do? You bring in the context through the use of material. We love bricks. We're all suckers for bricks. And you see that texture running through. So that visual tactility that you see is a great contextualizing tool for me. It brings it in, it grounds it as to where it belongs. And then you're free to dream as you want. This is their basement in the entertainment area that I was talking about. And this home has a couple of floors. Okay. So it's divided. And how do you connect that? So the easiest connect I'm going to talk about is the comfort of using color as a tool. If you notice, there is this, and then there is this. It's just the proportions have been completely reversed.
That's a stark difference.
Yes, but you can see how it ties in together with this black and white that runs through their entire home in different proportions, in different ways. Would you like me to flip back to a slide and show you again? So look at this. Look at this. And then go back to this. So the reason for this, again, was their comfort. This is where their bedroom is. This is where, let's say that just two people going over, two couples, they wouldn't open the giant area, which is their regular entertainment, and would have people over here. There was light flooding in, and I wanted her to have that experience of that little tea shop. The panding details are clean, but they have a sense of historicity. So that element of familiarity that brings comfort. She looked at it and she goes, "Oh my God, this is just like the tea shops I went to." I had no idea which tea shops, but it's just basic. It's just a basic recall tool. That's all that this was.
Yeah.
And
a lot of it is derived from symbolism, right?
Yes, of course. It's never literal, because literal would be boring and literal would be cut and paste. There's no cut and paste here. There's their experiences being
An
translated.
interpretation of those experiences.
Yes, which is, I think, a designer's role is to dream with your client and to elevate or to interpret or to change into a better form, whatever they have thought. The husband loves color and print. You can imagine, not my comfort zone in all these years that you've known me. He said my favorite color is pink.
Oh, wow.
Yes, me, okay? Cannot tell you how many shades of pink I have sampled, and my discomfort versus his comfort, my discomfort versus his comfort, which is always a conversation. But look, we agreed. I feel very proud that I have pink.
I think the only other color I see you wear is a blue.
I wear blue.
And I would like to say a very deep blue.
Yes, but I wear deep blue, I wear black, I wear gray, I wear white. I even have a sienna brown. I'm so proud of myself.
Well, this client definitely had you.
No, but it's never about me, right? I mean, it's not my story to tell. I don't need to walk into this place and feel like, oh, wow, I'm home. They need to feel like they belong. And I think that's my job. So,
in fact, that's one of the reasons I wanted to touch upon this, because a lot of times as designers, we need to step out of our own comfort zone to try out what a client would want or need, right? I was talking to another architect, and they said that the primary role of a designer or an architect is to redefine the brief that a client gives you. And when you say redefine, it doesn't have to mean that you have to contradict it or you have to kind of negate it, but to expand on it, because a lot of times clients, and especially today, they'll come with reference images and say, this is what I want. That's not what our job is. But our job is to see what it is that they really need, what it is that they mean, and then interpret that. And that becomes interesting. So for someone like you who might not find comfort in color personally, but then you do that for a client because that's what's required of that project. So we talk about comfort at multiple levels.
Yes, like I said, this particular room especially was a huge engagement over comfort and discomfort. But the truth is that this is what I do for a living, and this is what my role is. Like I said, I agree with whoever said that to you. If it was Sid, I agree. But yeah, but you have to take what they come to you with and elevate it to the design that you're supposed to create. If they knew how to create a design, then, there's Pinterest galore. You can just go and pick up and, cut paste, but then it's not really yours.
Yeah.
How does it belong to you? What does it say to you? This chair I chose for them because there's lots of sunshine that comes flooding in, and the wife likes sitting in the sun outside. I'm just go back to that for a second. Apologies. I don't know whether I should, but I think I will. Everything is bespoke, including the soft furnishings, because that's comfort that is for them. There is nothing that's just ready-made and bought and placed. Guest bedrooms, where they wanted something neutral, yet they wanted something moody. Yeah, this is definitely my comfort level. Look at the wide array of colors that I've used. But look.
Wow.
Yeah. The little one, they have a daughter who came to me at the start of everything and said, oh, I'm a princess. I love that. I love that confidence. I'm a princess and I'd like a room like a princess. And, she said, I have to have pink. And it really, by that time, this was not tough at all, because It's about the fact that she goes to bed every day feeling like a princess.
Mm.
It's her comfort zone. I think all little girls should feel like princesses. And I think it's wonderful that we can step out of our comfort zone and make that comfort for her. The son was an avid reader. And this whole room was about him and his joy of reading that came into this space. This is another home, which is again so much about comfort because this particular client was in a place in their life where they were not really comfortable emotionally and were going through a little bit of a turmoil. And I wanted to make sure that when this person had their space, it just spoke only of comfort and a sense of belonging coming back into a space which was completely new yet theirs.
Right.
It's not a large space, but this is that psychological comfort that you're talking about. I think everything boils down to a feeling in a space eventually.
Yeah.
This is the most secure space that I think I've created for somebody who's not been in that. And I think that's a gift that we get to do.
Absolutely.
So the tactile aspects that you're talking about are all in play here. You can see the play of textures. You can see the layering that provides the comfort. You can see the warmth that sort of comes in through every single piece. It isn't filled with bright colors. I apologize, Mrinalini. But these little glowing aspects of this home, corners that glow. I think if you look at that artwork on the right-hand side, that's a Julia Segard artwork. It's that road which is glowing with street lights in the evening, especially on a Delhi winter evening. This is what Delhi winter streets look like. That's the context. And you head home, and you come home and you're back. You're comfortable. I think we literally chase the light in this project. There is light seeping in from everywhere. Mohit was responsible, Mohit first was responsible from our studio for creating these beautiful window seats. And I love, I've grown up. Again, your own personal comfort comes in somewhere. So I've grown up, my aunt had a library at home. We had a massive library, and I would hide in the window seats, draw the curtain, and read while I was supposed to be napping as a kid. I got into trouble quite a lot for that, but it was okay. It was worth it. But this is something now where her daughter snuggles up and reads. And it's that sense of comfort that you come home to something which is not what you're experiencing elsewhere.
Yeah.
I think that makes the difference.
I think that's fascinating because both the projects that you're looking at, right? One, the client wanted what she found outside of home. And here, the client wants what they have inside and has nothing to do with what's outside the home. Because that's where levels of comfort lie. It's interesting that you talked about this and you bring this idea of someone not feeling at the top of their game or not feeling well enough. I wasn't very familiar with this, but there is something called a BRI, which is building related illnesses. There's an actual term.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
which are allergic reactions or infections which can be directly attributed to being in a building. So there's a technical term called building related illnesses. But on the other side, and those are actual illnesses and allergies, right?
Right.
But on the other side, there's something called SBS, which is sick building syndrome, which relates to symptoms of acute health and or comfort effects for which no specific cause can be found that can be attributed to time spent in a particular building. So it could work either way. It's interesting to see that your space can affect you, right? And I mean, we all know that spaces affect us, but it can affect you in such a manner, physically and medically, but also emotionally for there to be a technical term for it.
So there was a study, I'm sure you're familiar, but there was a study done in Japan, I think about 10 years ago, no, I think longer, 15 years back, there was a study done in Japan. Until then, there was this great hype about how white light was everything and how,
Yeah.
that's the best kind of lighting. And there was a whole study, a medical study, research done, which linked white light with depression, with a sense of unhappiness, with a sense of sterility.
Yeah.
And it engendered a huge change in how lighting design was done, especially for offices.
Yes.
It's my pet peeve. I hate white light. I don't understand why would I ever want to use white light. I think the sun is one of the greatest comforts that we have as human beings. And I think that that's like the benchmark that we all need to look at. There is nothing better. So white light is another aspect of comfort or discomfort. I think functionality is somewhere incorrectly equated with, oh, if there's white light and there's a lot of it, it's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
But I think that's also a misnomer that design must correct. That good lighting has nothing to do with white light or a lot of fill light. Lighting is again so emotional and contributes so immensely to the feeling of comfort. If a space is well lit, if it's lit correctly, if it's lit intelligently, if there's layering, if there is warmth in that, and it sort of responds to that particular space and the use of that space, then I think that's a very important aspect of comfort. So I thought of lighting when you were talking about the sick building syndrome because of that study that Japan had done.
Of course. Well, between you and me, we could have a whole other different session.
Yeah.
But no, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I know we'll otherwise keep talking forever. I'll quickly move to another project. So interestingly, this was a project which almost like a retail project where this company, which makes millwork, which works with millwork and veneers, asked us to create a booth for them. And I just said, I don't know how to design booths because all the exhibitions are fairly, for a material.
Yeah.
It's not a company that makes any lifestyle product. They just do millwork. And then I thought to myself, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm not going to make it look like just any other, where I paste sheets of veneer and have swatches and, say, oh, hi, this is what we do and buy our product. And if you notice, it's a complete home. We wanted to create little corners where you could see the quality of the millwork that was done. So therefore, the millwork detailing is a little complicated. It's a little, well thought through so people can see the skill set. But there is lighting. There is, which is not flat, which is not just focused blindly on the product festooned on the walls, because that's not the intent. When you buy a product for its use, how do you experience it? And how do you bring that sense of comfort to a person who's going to buy it or place an order for something to see how they would use it? So there were little corners that were created in a small space to say, look, this is what the home could feel like, and this is how comfortable it would feel, and how nice it would feel. But we go back to that conversation about carpets and layers and lighting. And if you look at this entire, I put these three images together for you to see, because the image on the left has a nap velvet, a brushed cotton velvet in the center of the panel. The photograph in the center has a different veneer, and the one on the right has yet another veneer. But they all came together because it was all about providing that sense of comfort to an enclosed space.
Yeah.
And sometimes enclosure is also a huge comfort in a retail format. And then we went to this, which was at India Design ID, which was a little more about showcasing products. And this was about showcasing for a product company, Sources Unlimited, which bring in furniture or bring in accessories. Again, the idea was how do showcase, or how do you help a client understand the optimization or the optimum use of a product by making it seem comfortable, by making it seem like a space that you would want to sit in, that you would want to experience. Comfort for me is the little detail. It's the open book on the table. It's the bowl of flowers. It's that little, set of objects that make you feel that it's not sterile, it's not nude, it's not denuded of emotions and everyday objects that help you think of your own home. Um, this is all part of the same. So we created this entire space that was like somebody's little home, away from home.
So a lot of familiarity, like comfort and familiarity.
Yes.
You mentioned this earlier.
Yes.
Is that we find comfort in things that we know, places that we've been, and things that we frequent.
Yes.
Right? Whether it's food, whether it's spaces, whether they're memories.
Are we going to talk about proofs? Are we going to talk about memory?
Sure.
Yes, of course we can. But I think you were talking about how I love reading right at the beginning. I think I was an armchair traveler from the age that I could read. Anybody who's read Enid Blyton's books has salivated over the most gross food today when you actually eat it. I mean, would I want a tongue sandwich? No, I wouldn't, but because the Secret Seven or the Famous Five, but eating it with potted jam, it was delicious in my head.
Yeah.
So I think familiarity, of course, is very important. But we go back to the sense of comfort coming in from a client's journey, right? I mean, that sense of familiarity is for them to walk home into, or walk into their space into, which changes completely in public projects like hospitality, or actually mostly hospitality, because hospitality are a million new faces every city.
Yeah.
How do you bring that comfort to every single person that comes into hospitality? So if it's high end, it's through use of fragrance. Back to Proust, smelling his grandmother's madeleines and thinking of vanilla, which I think I do too. I mean, I grew up eating my aunt's baking, and I think till date, that fragrance of vanilla is for me a sense of comfort because it reminds me of family. So design is not singular. Design will get into every single element. When we design homes, for example, we look at how different spaces will be fragrant and what they will feel like. There are herb gardens that we are looking at planting that make you really feel that herbaceous feeling when you walk out in the summer. There are flowers, of course, in Delhi. We're very fortunate. We work with large gardens, from the regular, champa to small harsingar trees to jasmine to flowering fruit trees.
Yeah.
And then you bring that indoors. So, okay, this is where OCD comes in fine. I think we should all change fragrances from summer to winter. And I think for me, that's a note of comfort. And a lot of clients that I work with now feel the same way. That summer you walk into a citrusy fragrance and you feel fresh and refreshed. And that's also part of comfort. And winter, you could be walking into a room that's infused with oud, or you could be walking into, one of my favorite fragrances is wood sage and sea salt from Jo Malone, which is beautiful for winter. Fragrance fills your space. It triggers memories. It triggers taste buds. There's so much that it does. So I will run you through this, which is another retail project, or we can go to hospitality if we're out of time. You tell me.
We have some time.
Okay.
I actually have some interesting questions and comments coming in. One from a close friend
Oh, good God. I didn't tell anyone to be here. Oh gosh. Okay. I have the best friends, but my friends also know I can beat them up really well.
Well, Shantanu's with us.
Oh my God. Oh God. Okay. Whatever we talk about, Mrinalini will have to take it off camera.
No, I think he has something very, very interesting and sweet to say, because and this is exactly what we were talking about, right? And he talks about smells. And he says, comfort is sitting on Iram's white couch smelling truffle cheese.
Okay, I love you. No, you know that. Thanks. Yes. But this is his home away from home. When he's not in Jaipur, when he's in Delhi, this is his home. My home is his home. Yes. Yes, I hope so. Okay, I'm so touched. But okay. So this is a retail project. This was a jewelry store. Again, new, uncomfortable. See how much jewelry I'm wearing. Intense, deeply knowledgeable. I should have called Shantanu to consult on this, considering that he understands. No, he's so well read. He enjoys it. It's part of his design process that he researches Cartier, and which, you know, I'm happy to read the history, but I wouldn't remember a thing. But here, the client was wonderful. I think I was far more comfortable than the client. I have white sofas. I have chairs that are not across the counter. And I said to him, I want to make this your little design studio. Your jewelry is bespoke. It's not a large retail chain brand. Why don't you make this a bespoke experience? Why don't you make it like your little boudoir, like your little studio you walk into? And when you're sketching or you're designing, somebody walks in and it's only by appointment. They come and see you. And he was so amazing. He was comfortable with this whole idea. So there's, again, you can see little details. There's a string of pearls around the frame, the mirror frame. There is a string of pearls that's hanging. Yeah. Those are Basra pearls, which are, of course, irregular, clove weaving their magic again. But I think here, the most important aspect of both of us being comfortable was the use of the right color temperature of light. I think you can never forget that a client's brief is your all-important playbook. The playbook here was to highlight his jewelry. Diamonds are only best seen in anything over 4,000 Kelvin and above. So these are special jewelry lights that belong in the case. And then when they come out, because the other trick is that you are never surrounded by a 4,000 Kelvin halo when you're walking into a party. Yeah. You're going to walk in with your diamonds, which you can see I don't wear any, into a party, into 3,000 Kelvin, 2,700 Kelvin. So I said to him, the person has to be comfortable enough to experience what they're going to wear, where they're going to wear it, in its space. And that is what we did for this project. The last will be hospitality, which is in this. I'm going to actually focus on the use of color because it's a big design trick and the king of colors here. So, you know, the Maharaja of Jaipur, I did not know was coming for this session. Thank you, Shantanu. So he knows color better than any of us do, definitely better than me. But for me, this was all about using the color red to create that sense of warmth, enveloping the space. And yes, red and orange are the two colors that trigger your hunger pangs. So the entire idea here was to look at hungry care using color to create comfort and food tricks. So thank you very, very much for letting us share our dreams, our collective dreams with you that, you know, we work on with our clients, our collaborators, not just our studio team, but, you know, our product designers, furniture, lighting, there's so much. And Shantanu, yes, art, yes. So I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Iram. I know you stopped sharing your presentation, but we do have a few questions that we'd still like to weave in. Ayush says, yes. Great work, Iram, really enjoying the presentation. His question is about comfort and cutting edge design. And he asks whether the two can go hand in hand. He says in fashion, perception is that they don't generally gel, right? So he'd like to know your thoughts.
Ayush, Mrinalini and I were having this little chat about how we both wear flats all the time. I think, but in all seriousness, okay, so fashion is a different field, and so we'll address that first. There are my closest friend loves shoes immensely and can wear strapped heels with pincers on them if they look good. And so there's a lot that has to be said, because if you're wearing something uncomfortable, but it makes you feel very good about yourself and has a great sense of comfort, then that's what Nani said, and I completely agree. Think your psychological comfort, how you feel about yourself, trumps your physical comfort. Design is a little different, because I think physical comfort is very, very, very important in interior spaces. But I will say this, I have a white couch. I've had a white couch for many years. I have, my home is not formal. It's a happy space for my loved ones. But I'm shallow. I like pretty things. I cannot lie. I'm really shallow, and I will have a white couch, and comfort about maintaining it be damned.
There, you just said it.
Yeah. The last point, cutting edge is, I mean, I think good design is timeless. I'm really not interested in trends. Trends come and go. And anything about design, if you will notice, will be cyclical. Good design is timeless and can carry you through all the years. So for me, good design is timeless design. I'm not a trend-driven person.
Well, I have to add, I think we're kind of moving away from the time where style and comfort had to be two ends of a spectrum. And
Yes.
thankfully so, now you are exposed to, and there is access to stylish comfort as well, whether it's fashion or whether it's design or architecture or in the build space. So thank you everyone who's working towards that.
Thank you 3M for coatings that keep our white sofa safe.
Yes. And soda for when you drop wine.
Yeah, and stain removers. I think I possibly keep a couple of stain removing companies afloat. I buy them, I gift them, I consider them very thoughtful gifts.
There you go.
Yeah.
Pro tips from Iram Sultan. We've got a lot of questions coming in. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to kind of cut this short a little bit. But we do have Smriti, who has a bunch of things that she wants to talk to Iram. So I'm going to hand the floor over to Smriti. She is the co-owner and marketing director of Cocoon Fine Rugs. Smriti,
Yes.
the floor is yours.
Yes, absolutely. I absolutely enjoyed the presentation, about it had some really good pointers to take back. So I noticed, of course, the use of rugs is an important part and aspect of every project. So would you have a preference of what kind of rug designs that you really like to use in your projects? Would they be like traditional or contemporary?
I'm all about history. I love history. I love that sense of historicity that comes into spaces. So I like a lot of traditional rugs. Like I said, I'm all about timeless design, but I also like mixing various kinds of rugs. Some of my favorite rugs that you guys have, I remember my friend Ekta Parik.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There we go. Of course, it's not difficult to see why this would appeal to me or to anyone who works in design. Just look at the name. I mean, Threshold, yeah, we're sold. Black and white, I'm sold. It's also something, it's a rug that I can work with in multiple spaces. It'll work in a traditional space. It'll be a counterfoil. It'll work, of course, very, very beautifully in a modern space. Fulkari Ivory is, I think, my favorite rug by Ashish. And I love, you look at it and you are like, okay, I'm looking at Chandigarh. Like, it's such an easy and beautiful design. I love that. The arabesque. So I'm a tiny little biased. As you can see, I've picked from people that I may be friends with. Arabesque is Rushad. But it's like Rushad's work is something I genuinely really love. So is Ashish and Geeta. And I love the fact that they're so different. For me, I could use all of these with a different range of furniture. I could look at using these with modern furniture, or I could even place something like the arabesque under maybe a very traditional, maybe a Georgian piece, because the contrast, the play with it, or the little detail that you'll see in the carvings in the Georgian cabinet and the arabesque would be a lovely little conversation.
Correct. And I mean, of course, you mentioned about, the maintenance of everything, about your right couch. So does the maintenance, so what would your choice of material be when it comes to rugs?
I also said I'm shallow, Smriti. Don't forget that part. I mean, I love silk. It's also going back to being tactile.
Absolutely. And they're absolutely very easy to maintain. Even a red wine stain can go off a pure silk carpet. And
wow, that's music to my ears for sure.
Yes, we actually had a client call us up at 3 a.m. in the morning saying that, hey, I've dropped red wine stain on the carpet. Can you have it removed for me?
That's when this all happened, right? So no one calls you at 3 a.m. for these kind of calls. I hear
it. So it was really funny. But yeah, we love cleaning the rug and giving it back to her,
Lovely.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on the shapes of the rugs? I mean, obviously, traditionally, rectangulars, squares, circulars were always there. But off lately, I just see a lot of the shaped rugs getting very popular. So, yeah.
I don't know if Mr. Garg is still here. He's done some. And yes, you're right. It's a trend right now. I would use them in more informal spaces. But I think this is my comfort that I need to get over. I'm all about really clean lines. So if I can get over that little hump, but I'm experimenting. I'm trying to use it in a family lounge recently. I'm trying to use something which is oval or irregular. I think it can be really interesting.
Right. Yeah, but I think it's nice, to just evolve. You have like a rug where you typically have like a square or a rectangle in mind, but yeah, I do think it brings some kind of freshness to the space.
Yes, it does.
And do you have a favorite rug at home that that you
I do.
Okay.
I do. I have two favorite rugs. I have two antique khotans that I absolutely adore.
Yeah. I would assume so, because like you said, you love pieces. So I was expecting an antique answer.
Yes. I'm also old. So anything old appeals to me. Yeah, right, Mrinalini?
Yeah.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Nothing I say right now could be the right answer.
Why do you think I asked you?
And what buying trends have caught your eye, Iram, over the past few years? Are clients interested in singular pieces where they can mix and match elements, or they can keep like a more coherent design language of components in their space?
It's not really a trend, but I think coherence, harmony, balance is good design. And each client has their own preferences. We worked on somebody's home who were complete Francophiles, and we went shopping with them to Paris to actually look for an antique desk. Compared to that, there has also been a client who's bought an Eve Klein table, which is a completely modern piece, the iconic Eve Klein blue table that we bought for him. I think it changes with every client. For me, every client is unique. Every client their home is theirs, and I want to collect also with collectible objects or pieces that speak to them.
Right. Yeah. And what would your go-to styling tip for carpets would be? Because often, people come to us and they're so confused how we want to go about placing a rug. So
The
yeah.
larger, the better. Please don't skimp on size. Make sure that it's under all your furniture, that it spreads out after your furniture. Be generous. For me, I think carpet is a beautiful piece and it needs to be generously laid. So tiny little pocket kerchiefs are in the middle of a room do nothing for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, because people are always confused about the sizing generally, so it helps, and we all
Generous.
that helps. That's a good advice. And how would you tell people to choose a rug? Like, go on aesthetic, size, material, other values. Like, what would you prioritize first?
All of the above. You can't take one out. First, does it speak to you? Do you like it? Can you see it every day? I like walking barefoot a lot, so I like feeling a rug under my feet. It has to be nice looking. I mean, of course, it has to be nice looking. And like I said, it has to be the right size. I think different functions for different rooms require different kinds of rugs. So for a children's room, you might take a cotton woven dari because it's something that they'll grow out of and you want to add a little bit of color.
Right.
But for your living spaces, you definitely want to get a rug that feels special.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we've asked you to select your favorite rug, and you
I
definitely
did.
yes, you have pulled out your favorite rug. That's nice. And I guess these were the common questions that I had to ask from my side, and also what people generally ask us. And I think there would be some valuable insights, for how to use a rug in this.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think that was quite for here. I'm going to take this opportunity to let Iram leave before she throws daggers at me.
You.
But
I'm kidding.
it's been so much fun to have you here. It's been insightful, it's been informative, it's been educative. But for me personally, it's just been a lot of fun. And on behalf
Likewise.
on behalf of Cocoon, on behalf of the entire audience here on Zoom, on Facebook, on YouTube, we've had a lot of people tuning in from across the world. Thank you so much for spending your evening and for making the effort and being here with us and sharing your thoughts. It's been great. I apologize to people who sent in their questions and we were unable to pick them up, but this entire session
Sorry, I spoke a lot. I apologize.
Not at all.
no.
We are going to have a recording of this talk, which is going to be available on Facebook and on YouTube, so you can tune in later and refer back whenever you like. And we will be doing, of course, the series continues, so keep an eye out on what's up next. We've got another exciting set of speakers. Also, a quick note that Cocoon is having their sale. So if you guys are interested, please go to their stores. They have stores in Bombay, in Mumbai, Calcutta, Kolkata, Jaipur, and Bangalore or Bengaluru. And they're sailing on for a bit, so you can avail up to 30%. So yes, this has been great. Thank you, Smriti. Thank you, Sneha. And a very, very huge thank you to Iram. Thank you so much for being here. We hope to see you in a lot more color in the future.
Oh, yay. Thank you, Mrinalini, for that sterling wish. And thank you, everyone, for having me. Thank you. Thank you again.
Wonderful. Wish
Bye-bye.
everybody a great evening ahead.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.